Born to Marshall and Mary Starr in Decatur, Michigan on May 1st, 1883, Floyd Elliott Starr experienced a unique childhood.
I had a very happy childhood. My parents in my early childhood were very well-to-do. Then, unfortunately, when I was about 9 or 10 years of age, my father lost his money, and we were poor. And I am so thankful that I had that experience.
The family moved in with Floyd's grandmother and lived in her large farmhouse near Marshall, Michigan. It was here that the still very young Floyd Starr first conceived the idea of Starr Commonwealth.
And one evening some neighbors came in to visit, and they were telling about a very wonderful man who had adopted 50 children. And at that point I was put to bed. In the morning I went to my mother and I said, "What did that man do to those children?" And for a moment Mother couldn't understand what I was getting at. And then she said, "Oh, adopted them?" And she explained what adoption meant. And I said, "Well, when I get grown up, I'm going to buy a farm and I'm going to adopt 50 children."
After surviving the rigors of country school, Floyd attended Marshall High School, where he excelled in forensics and oratory. But it was in a psychology class that he came to a profound realization.
A boy had been sent to the training school, and someone said he was a bad boy, and I made the remark, "I don't believe there is anything as a really bad boy." And the instructor that day said, "That's a challenging statement," and it came up for discussion, and I explained my reason for making that statement.
Floyd went on to study at Albion College, where he met Harriet Armstrong. After graduating in 1910, he took a job at Bernard McFadden's Healthatorium in Chicago and married Harriet on Christmas Eve that same year. Early in the summer of 1912, only a year and a half after moving to Chicago, Floyd learned of an opening for an assistant director at the Beulah Land Farm for Boys in Boyne City, Michigan. He was rewarded the position, but within weeks, the board closed the home after evidence of mismanagement of the facility came to light. With the closing, 50 young boys were again homeless, and Floyd Starr made a decision that would change the lives of thousands of youth forever.
I bought a farm about 3 miles west of Albion, and I built a cottage on it, which I called Gladsome Cottage, because it was such a gladsome day that I began doing the work that I had dreamed of doing from my infancy almost, and started the Starr Commonwealth with 2 boys, Harold Belair and Thaddeus Newcomb.
With the founding of Starr Commonwealth also came a critical treatment philosophy known as the Starr Commonwealth Creed.
We believe there is no such thing as a bad boy. We believe that every normal boy will be good if given an opportunity in an environment of love and activity.
Love and spirituality were also key ingredients of Floyd Starr's philosophy.
These boys are dying for a little bit of love. Now that's the first thing they must have. And then we must give them work to do. And they must have play. They must have spiritual development. As I said a moment ago, that must go hand in hand with physical, mental, and moral development.
By 1915, there were over 24 boys living, working, and schooling in Gladsome Cottage. When the quality of schoolwork began to suffer, it was obvious to Floyd that a schoolhouse must be built. So with a $50 loan for lumber from a local banker, and the help of Floyd's father's carpentry skills, the boys all pitched in and built the one-room schoolhouse. Though it was little more than a shack, it provided the space needed to properly educate the boys. Within 2 years, the shaky wooden schoolhouse was no longer adequate. Uncle Floyd, as he was now called by the boys, began to seek support to build a new school.
And one of the little fellows, a little red-headed David Matson from Detroit, said, "Well, Uncle Floyd, you're always talking to us about prayer and asking God for the things we want." Said, "If you believe that, why don't you ask God to send the money for that school building if you can't get it from the bank?" And the first prayer was made by little David. He said, "Dear God, please help Uncle Floyd to get the money for a new schoolhouse, amen." And that went right around the prayer circle. And Mrs. Boehm, the field secretary, decided she'd call on Mrs. Clark and get another 100. Mrs. Clark said, "No, I'm not going to make my usual contribution. Here's a check for $5,000. Take it to Mr. Starr. Tell him to build the schoolhouse. And when that money's gone, send for more. I will meet the entire expense of it." Red-headed David, freckled face, he said, "We don't have to ask God for sending the money tonight, but I think we better get down on our knees and thank him for answering our prayers."
Over the next several years, Star Commonwealth continued to grow with several new cottages and buildings, including Newton Hall in 1915, Wilcox in 1918, Reynolds in 1927, Inglis in 1935, which was later renamed Mendelssohn in 1961, and Chapel in the Woods in 1950. A few years later, the campus grew again with the construction of Candler Hall and Bruckner Museum in 1956. And by that time, Floyd Starr began to see that it was essential to reach out to boys in need beyond the Michigan border.
Then we decided that if boys of Ohio needed something of our help, we'd better have an institution down there. Through the kindness of Mr. and Mrs. Beckman, we came in possession of one of the most beautiful estates in northern Ohio. And we now have a branch there supported entirely by Ohio people for the boys of that state.
Floyd worked tirelessly and continued his mission of helping youth across Michigan and Ohio.
This is a view of the Bruckner building, which was the gift of Mrs. Bruckner of Detroit. It was given in honor of her 16-year-old son, who died at that age and who gave promise of becoming a really great artist.
Over time, Floyd Starr's tireless work with troubled boys began to attract the attention of the world. Presidents, movie stars, athletes, and authors came to meet the youth and see the campus. Many nationally recognized individuals came to speak at Starr Commonwealth, including George Washington Carver in 1939 and Helen Keller in 1941. Annual Starr Founders Day celebrations began in 1963 and welcomed world-renowned speakers including Muhammad Ali, Maya Angelou, Henry Winkler, and Marlee Matlin, to name a few.
We are having a Founders Day in order that the men and women of this state who have made Starr Commonwealth possible might come and see just what they've accomplished during the last 10 years. The Starr Commonwealth is yours, it's not mine. These boys are your boys. You're the people who have helped to make this work possible.
Starr Commonwealth continued to grow, including development of the North Albion campus in 1958, the Knights Templar Gymnasium in 1960, the acquisition of the Hannah Neal Center in Columbus, Ohio in 1978. Even after Floyd's passing in 1980, Starr Commonwealth expanded further with the opening of the Detroit site in 1987, the Mauby Administration Building in 1988, the Towsley Center for Recreation in 1990, the Battle Creek facility in 1997, Montcalm School for Boys in 2000, and Montcalm School for Girls in 2004, the Children's Home of Detroit in 2009, and the Starr Global Training Network in 2009, which includes the National Institute for Trauma and Loss in Children, Circle of Courage, Glasswing, and Reclaiming Youth International. In 2012, Starr launched into a new arena with the creation of a charter school, Starr Detroit Academy. Today, Starr continues to expand its reach as the organization pursues collaborative relationships that promote enhanced efforts to serve children and families everywhere.
You're on the outside and you really don't know what to do with yourself until you get in here and learn responsibility and you learn about yourself, and they show you how to, teach you how to cope with your problems and know what to do with them. Show your strength. Everybody has strength in two ways, you know, mentally and physically. They want you, that mental strength, they want you to put it for something good, decent, you know, and that's what you learn to do.
Today, Floyd Starr's strength-based peer group empowerment model continues to work in everything from residential treatment programs for delinquents and sexually abused kids to specialized treatment, foster care, and school-based programs. Our vision for the future is clear: to actively engage with communities worldwide to develop the greatness in every child. Our mission to create positive environments where children flourish will continue to guide us. The future of Starr Commonwealth is bright. So too are the lives of thousands of youth whose hearts and minds are filled with the values and love of Uncle Floyd.
There is no such thing as a bad boy.